Welcome back to Cherry Pickin, presented by Owner's Box. Today we are talking fantasy hockey draft strategies. We are going to give you 3 strategies and then try and pick the best strategy for you. I hope we can pick one.
I hope so too.
But first, make sure you comment, like, subscribe, and go to manscaped.com, use code BOX, and get 20% off and free shipping.
Absolutely.
And Drew, why don't you start us off with your first strategy?
Okay. This is a strategy I'm very passionate about, gentlemen. And this strategy is to start with 1 or 2 forwards and then pivot hard to defensemen early in the draft. And to fill out your defenseman spots, probably all 4 by the end of the 7th round. Because as we've seen in past, all of our years of playing fantasy hockey, defenseman is the thinnest position and also the most important position in fantasy hockey. You need those top defensemen that play power play 1, that anchor the team 5-on-5, that drive offense for the team, and there's only a select maybe 15 to 20 of them. Whereas with forwards, you get outside the top 100, there's still forwards who have 75-point potential. But with defensemen, there's only a few good ones, and you need to hammer them early.
So how many defense? So you said first or second round you're going forwards?
Yeah.
Or goalie?
Well, that's what I wanted to clarify, right? So you're getting 4 in the first 7 rounds,
Yeah.
but is there any situation where you're taking one in the first 2?
I probably wouldn't take one in the first round unless I have the 12th pick and I get Makar. Besides that, I'm probably taking a forward in the first round. In the second round, I might look at Carlson if I'm late second round, right? But
Because you're a Carlson guy.
yeah, I'm a big Carlson guy. But in the end, I'll probably take 4 in the first 7 rounds.
4. So you're just going to fill up those slots right away. That's
Yeah,
the strategy.
That's the strategy.
Okay.
And zero chance you're taking a goalie. I know we've talked about
Yeah.
this before, but
Yeah.
even if they're falling, you're not.
In a points league where you don't need the goals against or save percentage categories and you just need wins and saves, then I'm going to go with volume and wait for guys that are late, that like Markstrom, Gibson, that start late. But Jeremy, why don't you get into your strategy?
So I guess you could pair up Drew's strategy with my strategy, but I don't really love the heavy defenseman early. I think it's just like picking 4 defensemen this first 7 rounds seems crazy to me. I don't know about you, Brody.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a hybrid. I guess we can get into that after you of what Drew's saying there.
So I got the 0 goalie strategy, sort of like the 0 RB strategy. Last year I got fucked over in a couple leagues. I went with Hellbuck, and he didn't perform like a second rounder or first. I guess he was going in the first round last year.
Yeah.
He didn't perform like it. I feel like there's that risk that other than obviously Vasilevsky, but I feel like every other goalie, there's that risk that they get, like they just plummet or they just don't play where they're at. That's first or second round is insane for a goalie, I find. So the 0 goalie strategy, obviously you don't go goalies, but then you get like sort of like an anchor, like a staple, someone that isn't going to leave their net unless they play horrendously, and that's like Demko in the 9th or Markstrom in the 12th. And then you could take it 2 ways. Like I think this way I like better is you take like an anchor, someone that's going to start a lot of games this year, and then you take sort of like committee goalies, but the second committee goalie, because you'll get them late, like Jeremy Swayman, Gibson. Like Gibson's obviously not a committee goalie, but you can play him like a committee goalie where you just play him based off matchup. And then Allen, I said on Montreal in the 14th round.
Yeah, especially if Price has missed time.
Yeah, I think Montreal is still a good team, and that Allen could be valuable in the 14th round based off matchups. So that's sort of the 0 goalie strategy. The other way to do 0 goalie strategy is, I don't know if Gianni mentioned it, but you sort of do, I guess you pick 2 goalies from the same team, and then you commit yourself to 82 games played. So you could do the Boston stack, you could do the Leafs stack, but I think
try and find a top 5, top 10 team and do that
as a committee at goalie.
Yeah.
I also think that we've seen recently in NHL that teams are relying less on a 1 goalie net and more of a rotation between 2 goalies.
Yeah.
So even like guys like Marc-Andre Fleury currently going in like the 3rd or 4th round, probably not going to start 65 games, probably going to start more like 55 to 60 games and will not return value on that ADP. So unless they're a guy like Vasilevsky, like you could maybe look at in the 1st or 2nd round because you know he is the best goalie, but year over year, the top goalie seems to change, right? It's not a consistent thing. It's hard to predict the top goalie year to year. Like I remember taking Cam Talbot after, I think it was like 2016 in the 2nd round after he had started 75 games and 140 for the Oilers. Ruined my year for fantasy. So like maybe that's why I'm scarred a little bit by the early goalies, but I completely agree with that strategy.
Yeah, and I guess outside of Vasilevsky, there really has been turnover in the last 3 to 5 years on who really is on top.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Brody, third strategy. So that's 2 strategies down the drain. Let's hear the third.
Yeah, so for me, I think I mentioned kind of a hybrid of Drew. I think I'm right in between both of you where I don't like putting any specific rule. Like I don't want to say no goalie. I don't want to say I have to draft, this many of this position by this round. I try to just go for, across the board, more safety on the top end and then like boom or bust type players later on. So I think if you go back to the draft video we did, I generally like taking defensemen earlier, not to the extent of I need 4 by this round, but shoring them up, like Drew said, because there's only so many that are valuable. So trying to get, 2 or 3 in that kind of first or second wave of defensemen before there's a drop off, really shoring up that position, getting that safety, trying to get, higher end, like again, boom bust guys later on. So first 5-6 rounds, I guess I go in safety in general, not trying to take anyone who could screw me. Like I don't want that guy that, may be able to get 100 points, but his bottom end is 60 and we don't really know. There's more question marks. I'd rather be stable at the top. When you get into goalies, again, no specific strategy on taking by a certain point or avoiding. I'm just looking for value. So if I'm in the first round later on and, Vasilevsky's falling to me, I have no issue taking him if he's, 4, 5, 6 behind his ADP if your league values goalies. I like the idea of trying to find a top team and potentially stacking the goalies there. Like if you think the Leafs are a top 5 team this year, I have no issue grabbing both of those guys, seeing how it plays out. And if they finish as a top 5 team, your goalie output, at least on the wins category, will be there.
And like that second, third round chart. So if you're trying to go safe, are you looking for more guys like Crosby and Stone and less like Stamkos and Kaprizov kind of types?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way of putting it. I think even again, our last mock draft that we did, that was kind of the direction I'm going, where some of these teams that until they show you they don't have it anymore, I'm fine to get them. Crosby maybe not, because there's always the injury level there, but Stone's a good example of, you're kind of you're getting that flora in, and then sprinkling in some upside here and there. I'm not saying every single pick is just going to be the safest guy on the board.
I mean, you can't win your draft in the first 4 rounds, but you can lose it in the first 4 rounds.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So that's a great strategy.
And that's where I go, the last 4 or 5 rounds, that's where you can really win the draft. And if you take guys that end up shitting the bed, it's not that big of a deal. You can drop them. There's so much turnover in hockey. So I guess the last thing I would say too, no specific strategy on when you take guys. I do like, maybe not as strict as Drew, but defensemen earlier. So that those last 4 or 5 rounds, you can really take those boom bust forwards that if they don't work out, you drop them and find someone, because there will be turnover on your team in fantasy hockey. And if they do work out, you get someone that could be a league winner if the situation works out the way you expect it might.
Honestly, guys, I love all 3 of these strategies.
So we need to pick. We can find a hybrid of all 3 of ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, taking no goalies, but also taking them early.
I think it's no goalies. You can take defensemen, but I think we can find a middle ground between Drew's 4 defensemen in the first 7
no
rounds.
strict rule in 4 on 7. You take definitely a couple by the 7th round. You want high floor players early in the draft and high ceiling late in the draft, and then fade goalies compared to ADP, but not completely.
I think we can take some of Brody's strategy of the stacking goalies that we talked about. I think that Brody, your strategy values a little more goalies compared to just completely fading them. Like,
compared to both of you for sure. Yeah.
So like the Jack Campbell, Peter Mrazek stack, like that's going to be like, what is that, 6th, 7th round?
Yeah, probably
like 5th, 6th,
5th and 8th, maybe.
5th and 8th.
Yeah, and if you're higher on the Leafs, what's wrong with that, right?
Yeah.
If they do have their high end season, which I think there's not many people that doubt they could be a top 5 team. Like they've been right there. It's 3 or 4 more wins go their way, and they're fighting for first potentially.
Okay.
If you can get that from your goaltenders, that's a good round 6, 7.
Absolutely.
All right, so that's our fantasy hockey draft strategy for you guys. Let us know in the comments if you want more of these videos, and make sure you let us know if you're going to follow this strategy. We definitely want to know. Make sure you join the Discord. We chat about it all the time. Make sure you buy Manscaped. Code BOX, free shipping, 20% off.